I'm in West Virginia now, but I nearly died on the Mount Davis's true summit. In this video, I'm going to tell you how I almost died trying to get to the true high point of Pennsylvania. There are actually two high points in Pennsylvania. It's disputed which one is the high point there. In this video, we're going to do the high point of Pennsylvania, Mount Davis. But the interesting thing about Mount Davis is there's potentially two summits. There's the traditional summit where there's a monument, and that's still by UGS certified as the top of Pennsylvania, the U.S. Geology Service, which is the kind of gold standard or the authority according to the High Pointers Club, which tracks the 50 state high points. But Don Holmes, a member of that club, he's got this very famous book, and in the book it talks about that it has been measured more recently, not by UGS, that the high point of Mount Davis is about a mile away. So we're going to see if we can get to that second high point, just in case the high point changes. You know, the Earth is always changing. So for instance, if you talk about Mount Rainier, the Columbia Crest right now is the recognized high point of Washington State and the summit of Mount Rainier. But another person who's been tracking these things and is actually doing trying to do the high points of all the countries in the world, in addition, he's already done the 50 state high points, says that due to glacier melt, Columbia Crest is no longer the high point of Mount Rainier. So, you know, if you're doing this, I guess you want to say at the time you've done it, UGS certified this was the high point, and I've done the high point. But there's kind of like so for instance, Reinhold Messner is thought to be by most people the first man to summit all 14 8,000 meter peaks without supplemental oxygen. But the Guinness Book of World Records says no, he did not, because I think it was on Manaslu. He didn't get to the true summit, right? A lot of people didn't get to the true summit. I think it was Manaslu or Makalu, I forget which one. And so instead it's a man who did it much later, the American Ed Viesturs, according to Guinness Book of World Records, was the first person to summit all 14 8,000ers. But of course, Ed Viesturs was, you know, was chasing, not chasing, but he believed that Messner was the one who did it, and he was just trying to copy his feat. So it's a long way of saying that the achievement of a summit can be taken away by some interpretations by, you know, depending on how things are measured, and the measurements can change. And so if it's easy to hit both summits, you probably should, just to save yourself time in the future, or you can just be happy and say, well, I did it at the recognized summit for that time. So I think another issue is, like, I talked about this in another video, the 9/7 summits, that not everybody agrees with what is a continent, what is the continent, what is the continent of Australia, what is the continent of Europe, for instance. And those disagreements can mean that the 7 summits are actually 9 different summits, right? Because there are some that are undisputed, and there are 2 that are summits that are 4 that are disputed. And so to achieve the 7 summits, it depends on the definition of what the 7 summits are. In this So right now, to achieve the 50 state high points, it depends on what the definition of the Pennsylvania state high point is. So we'll see if we can get to both of them in this video. Okay, so I'm in the parking area. So we're gonna walk to the signal tower and the markers. So this is the traditional one, and I think we'll be able to drive in these forest roads. So part of the roads are paved. From the south side, it was a very nice gravel road. So everything two-wheel drive here. Nothing like forests or U.S. Forest Service roads, which are often require four-wheel drive depending on the road. So these are two-wheel drive for sure. So anybody could do it. And it's relatively flat here on Mount Davis. Okay, so Mount Davis, 3,213 feet above sea level. The signal tower is behind me. We'll go climb that and see if we can find any other markers. Okay, so the NGS markers on that rock there right behind me, so that serves as the high point, or at least the official high point, which may have changed. So we'll climb the signal tower, check out some more of the stuff here. Nice facility. It looks like I'm the only one here, but maybe somebody visited earlier. Maybe somebody will visit later. Okay, so Mount Davis was purchased from the Emma Humes in 1929 by the state of Pennsylvania. It's named after this John Nelson Davis, who was a local educator, a school superintendent in Somerset County and Elk Lick Township, where we are, which is right on the Maryland border. He died in 1913. Had quite the beard, by the way, very long. Anyway, so that's who it's named after. You can see the high pointers bench right next to me. They've got quite a few other exhibits here. So, this plaque here refers to part of the problem is that Mount Davis itself is not a pinnacle, but just kind of a flat plateau. So very hard to find the highest point of the plateau, natural point. That boulder was thought to be it, but it might not always be thought to be it. But since it's marked here, this is the official one for now. Okay, so this is the first metal signal tower that actually lets you climb it. Usually they take out the bottom of them, and they've been replaced by wooden signal towers on the high points. Definitely get a little bit of vertigo climbing up when you look through the stuff, but also very slick. Get a good hold on the railings in this spitting rain, almost freezing rain. So earlier today I was in Maryland, and at the high point there of Backbone Mountain, and I misspoke and I thought that was the 31st. That was actually my 32nd state high point. This would be my 33rd, and this is my third high point in the Northeast region. So one of the things that they've got these pins with the High Pointers Foundation, and so there's like a 5 high point pin, there's a 25, there's a 30, a 40, a 40, lower 48, and then I think there's a lower 48 plaque, and then a 50 state plaque. And so, you could get the 25 pin without ever doing any walking pretty much, or walking less than a mile or less than 2 miles. Because there's over 25 that I think that have less than a mile of walking. The 30 pin, you have to have 5 in each region, and so you actually have to do some moderate state high points and maybe a few hard ones, because I think if I remember the western region right, based on my ranking of the difficulties, there are, very hard, and moderate high points. I don't think there are any easy high points, and I don't think there are 5 moderate high points. So, like for instance, in the West, to get 5 high points and get the 30 pin, you would need to do, at the easiest, would be like New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, right? Mount Elbert, Colorado, which is a big long walk and a decent amount of elevation gain in a 14er. And that only gets you to 4. And then you have to choose from one of the harder high points, either Whitney, or of the easier hard high points would be like Whitney, Bora, which is more technical, Hood, which is really technical, right? So there's not an easy one in the West. So I think there's a big separation between somebody that's gone and qualified for 25 and one that's qualified for the 30, because you have to get 5 in each region. Well, I've most of the high points done in the West, all of them in the Midwest, most of them done in the South, but before 2 days ago, I didn't have any high points in the Northeast. I have 3 now. So I need another 3, even though I'm at 33, I'd have to get to 35 high points before I'd qualify for the 30 pin. And obviously the 40 pin, you've done all the moderates. You need to do all the moderates and some of the hards. There's only 2 very hards, Gannett and in Wyoming, and of course Denali in Alaska. So, I really feel like if you've done the lower 48 pin, then you're ready for Denali for sure, because of the technical difficulty of a lot of the ones such as Gannett and Granite and Rainier, and Hood. But if you've done the lower 40 pin, it might be a big jump in terms of technical difficulty as a mountaineer to get to the 48, and of course getting the 50, getting past Denali is just difficult and expensive. So anyways, but right now I'm just working on the 30 and got 2 more to go. But let's check the other the disputed high point location next. Okay, so I'll just go back to the 40 pin. I think there's only 8 hard or very hard high points, according to my ranking. So you could get away with the 40 pin to just get the moderate, easy, very easy high points, which are basically class 2 and below. So you could, as long as you can walk a long distance, then you could get that pin. You really need to pick up some mountaineering skills in terms of ice travel, crampon, ice axe, some class 5 moves potentially, some class 3 climbing, scrambling, to get to the lower 48 pin. So really the 30 pin and the 40 pin, they're not that much different, except you just done 10 more. But I think a lot of people that get the 30 pin are going to get the 30 pin and the 40 pin almost at the same time, because they've done almost 40 by the time they qualify for the 30 pin. So yeah, so basically like the 25 pin, you could get away with like having no physical fitness and doing the 25 pin. You need some physical fitness for the 30 pin and the 40 pin. You need some technical mountaineering skills to get from the 40 to lower 48 pin, or the lower 48 plaque and the 50 plaque. Yeah, and of course, for the moderates, you need some like hiking judgment gear, like decent hiking gear, I would say. Some be able to read weather and conditions and know your limits and that type of thing. to get the 40 pin, or the 30 pin too, which you don't need for the 25 pin. So there are some skills that you need to develop as a hiker, or some good judgment you need to get as a hiker to get beyond the 25 pin. Okay, so I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere in the park on a dirt road, but a nice dirt road. This is the passage on page 187 of Don Holm's High Points of the United States, a guide to the 50 State Summits, 3rd edition. Recent LiDAR data indicates there may be a location in Pennsylvania that is higher than the traditional boulder described herein. This point is located approximately 0.9 miles at a bearing of 20 degrees. True from the boulder, the WGS 84 coordinates are 39.79839 north. That's 39.79839 north. 79.17125 west. And then he goes on to say, until this point is recognized by the state or the UGS as the Pennsylvania high point, it is the opinion of the author that visiting the traditional boulder is sufficient to claim Pennsylvania. That's his opinion. And then he says, let conscience be your guide. So there's no parking here, but I don't think anybody's going to be driving on this road. So I'm just going to stop on the road here, and then I'm going to get out. And this is on Northwood Road within the Forest Preserve. Okay, as you can see, I'm like in this thicket. Google Maps says I'm about 300 feet from it. I'm probably 300 feet from the road here. I'm going to turn back because the thicket is just getting thicker. So obviously nobody visits this alternative high point location. At least not from this angle. Maybe we can see from the other road, but I think it's not easily passable without a machete. Okay, so Google's saying it's like 400 feet, 300 meters or 100 meters from the road here, just to this spot right here. I kind of went south of it. It's raining pretty good now. I'll look around, see if I can see a better way to bushwhack to it. And I might take a compass this next time. Okay, so there's actually a pull-off right here by this kind of biggish rock, right kind of parallel to it. I also see a yellow blaze across there, so maybe that is kind of a trail, or maybe that's just some moss. I don't know. It doesn't look passable from here, but I'll just poke around for a second. Yeah, it's still like 300 feet, and it just looks like a thicket in the direction we want to go. There's just not any air between these things. It's a lot of bushwhacking. I don't see a decent way to it. I don't think anybody's visited that spot, but it probably, it might be the highest. Who knows? I have no idea. You can never tell this from the ground. It probably is, but I do see like a rise in the ground, like right here, and this is kind of the angle I need to go. But it's another 300 feet. Okay, I've hit a clear rise. I'm about 50 meters away, 200 feet away. I'll try bushwhacking a bit further. Quite miserable conditions, but I do have good gear on. Okay, so we're about 30 meters, 100 feet from the high point right here. So there are some clearings and large boulders. You can kind of see the trees rise up right there, so we'll keep on heading this way. Okay, so I'm on this rock. I think this is the high point. You can see that people have cleared this section behind me. It's been cleared with a machete, so people can get to it. The map says I'm, within 5 to 10 feet of it. So I don't see any place really higher. I don't see any place higher than this, so I'll walk around here, but I'm within 5 to 10 feet of it. We've got this machete-cleared area here, and this is the coordinates that Don said. Now I just need to get back to the car, 400 feet in this rain. Okay, so I'm in West Virginia now, but I nearly died on the Mount Davis's true summit, near it at least. The problem was those trees were so thick, right? There was no path, so you had to like break through the trees or slide through the low scrub trees. And it was raining, pretty cold rain. It was like in the 40s. I had good rain gear. I was not wearing my mountaineering boots. I wasn't wearing boots. I was just wearing sneakers. I did have wool socks. I did have like hot feet, hot hands. But you know, my gloves were getting soaked through because I had to take them on and off to use the phone. And you know, none of my sensor gloves are waterproof. None of the waterproof gloves I was wearing, you know, they ended up getting wet because I'm taking them on and off. I was navigating by cell phone, which was okay because I had a cell phone signal. Had I not had a cell phone signal, I wouldn't have been able to do that to the waypoint. That, of course, is a bad idea. And I didn't have a power pack. I didn't bring my satellite phone, which was in the car. I didn't, you know, so I was pretty unprepared. Why didn't I bring those things? Those things are typically in my hiking bag, but just because I was just kind of running out and it was very close by, I didn't bring those things. And I knew the car was east of me. The Jeep and trailer were east of me, more or less due east, but it was very hard to navigate because there was no sunshine, because there was 100% cloud cover, and it was just like just a gray day. So the only thing I could navigate by were the taller trees, of which there were a few. There was one crooked tree that I was trying to keep to my left that it did seem to work, more or less, but my cell phone gave out because it was it had a full charge when I left, but the voice control kept on being triggered by the water and, you know, by my hood, which was touching the which was, you know, touching my earpiece. I really hate voice control on Apple, so I've tried to turn it off several times, but it's just a pain, and it drains the batteries, and then you have to turn it off, and then you have to, if you're looking at the map, you need to get back into the phone, and if it's raining, the phone reacts to water like it reacts to your fingers. So in the end, it just it gave out the batteries. I texted my parents my mom when I got down to 20% batteries, and told her that if I don't give her a call or text by 6 p.m. that she needed to call 911. She ended up calling 911 like immediately, but they never deployed. So I was there like 2 hours. I was probably in the bushes for 2 hours, at least an hour after I texted her, before I emerged right in front of the car. But I did bring a compass, but my compass was not working. It was not pointing north. It was pointing in all different directions. So what I finally figured out, besides navigating to landmarks, was that I could use my Garmin Instinct watch. So I have a Garmin Instinct 2 Solar, and I could request position updates. And so using the position updates, I could see if I was moving east or not based on west latitude. West longitude, sorry. So if I'm more or less maintaining my latitude and I'm moving east or reducing my west longitude, then I was going in the right direction. So in the end, it was just it was it's just like, how quickly can a situation deteriorate if you're not totally prepared for it? Even if you're just a few hundred feet from your car, you could be lost in that woods. And the woods area before you hit a road, was less than a mile square, right? And I was on the closest thing. The problem was if you went in circles. So the first time I tried to leave the high point, I ended up going right back to the high point, right? So I just bushwhacked in a circle. And that's the fear, is that you're going to bushwhack in a circle. Now, while I had really good gear on, except for my shoes, I don't think I could have, I'm not sure that I could have lasted a night unless I was, doing cardio the whole time. So one of the things I was trying to do was, I didn't want to, I know you're supposed to stay and wait for rescue in one place. And I did give them positions. I gave them position of the high point, and I gave them the position of my last known position before the cell phone went out. But GPS coordinates. But just standing still there was really risky, and I just couldn't conceive of how rescuers would be able to find bushwhack through that. They just basically need to have machetes and just push and yell. Now, it was such a small place. Conceivably, you could have yelled across and found each other, but you don't know how long they're going to deploy, what they're going to do, what the efforts of the search, and I didn't want there to be a search. So my opinion was I needed to get out of there on my own. But when the cell phone was going down, and my feet are cold, we've got freezing rain, it's late in the afternoon, it's not a place you want to spend the night. I'd camped enough to know that was not a sustainable situation. So just keeping moving and trying to get to the road, I felt was the best thing in that situation. So obviously what I would do differently in that situation, I either don't go to the high point, or going to the high point I should have had a backup battery for my cell phone, a backup cell phone, which I had. I should have had the satellite phone that I had, and I should have had a compass that I knew worked. So all those things would have been better. I did have a headlamp. I did anticipate, maybe it's going to go long. So, and boots. I should have wore boots. Anyways, subscribe.